Jaguars.com coverage from the NFL Scouting Combine continues. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, General Manager Trent Baalke with us here on Radio Row. It's your day today, Trent. You're running all over the media center. Thanks for stopping by. What's up?
Well, thanks for having me. Not much. Glad to be back in Indy.
How many combines is this for you?
I think this is 22.
22 times.
22 or 23. One of the two.
You've lost count.
I have.
Which is 22 too many, right? Not a given.
Yeah, some would say that. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and what does the combine mean to you as a GM? I know a lot of GMs aren't crazy about it because it sort of sends guys up and down boards that don't really exist, if you will. But how do you assess the combine? What do you try to get out of it?
Well, you try to get as much as you can, obviously, and I think everybody places a different importance on different things. It is what it is. You take the information and you compile it with all the other information you got, and we're a big film-based evaluating system. So, we're going to take the film and look at the film and then take all the other parts and kind of piece it together with the film. But at the end of the day, the film's what matters to us.
Do guys really rise and fall here or not?
Oh, I think they do.
Okay.
Let's be honest. I think that through history, guys have come here and moved up the ladder quite a bit. And there's guys that have come here and not done well and fallen off a little bit. But, you take it for what it's worth. I've never put too much into it and just try to use it as a tool.
Trent, this is also the time of year where business, there's plenty of business to attend to for the Jaguars, and going into the start of the league year, salary cap considerations. There's reports earlier this week that there's been money moved around, a few different contracts, some of the big names to create some space, and there are still pending free agents out there. So let's start with that part, the last part of that equation. Everybody's worried and wondering about Evan Ingram and the right tackle, Jawan Taylor. What's the latest with those two? And I know there's a couple weeks left to get something done.
Well, we've just really begun the negotiating phase with both of them. We've met with their agents, meeting with their agents today, met with Jawan's agent this morning, and we're just talking through things. We got a window here before free agency actually opens to try to close these deals. Doug and I have talked, ownership, Shad, and the three of us have talked. Very important for us to keep our core players together, but it's got to make sense for both sides. It's got to be a win-win, and we've told that to the players. But we strongly believe in keeping this group together, and I think the actions that we've taken over the last week and a half are going to allow us to do that, or at least put our best foot forward.
Do you feel good about those actions? You've always got to balance the now versus the future as a GM. You feel good about where you've gotten the cap as you go, or as you approach to March 15th?
Yeah, we're in good shape from a cap standpoint. We met with ownership. We reviewed the plan that we put out, and the coaching staff and the personnel staff have met over the last couple of weeks to really hammer out what's best for us today and as we move into the future. And really, it's that collaboration, the willingness of our ownership to step up and do what we needed to do financially to make this all come to fruition. We still got a lot of work to do. We got to finish the race, if you will. So that's where we're at right now.
That's where it comes when you're moving money back into the future. Ownership's got to be involved, right? They've got to pull the trigger on that.
Well, they do. This organization has never really pushed money into the future. One of two teams that haven't done that, and we're moving that direction. But you still got to do it with respect to the dollar, right? It's got to make sense. You don't want to just go out there and make bad deals. And again, I go back to win-win. There's a win in it for both sides. You just got to find out what that number is and what the length of that contract's going to be.
You don't love doing that as a GM because you like having that space going forward. But at some point, you do have to move money to keep a core together in this day and age in the NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's the right guys, you got to do it.
Right.
You got to do what it takes to keep those guys together. And we're very fortunate right now. We've got a great locker room. It's a bunch of guys that are committed to each other. They trust each other. They believe in each other. And that's what you're looking for. And every player that we're trying to add or keep within that core are going to be guys that we feel fit the culture that we're trying to build.
This is probably not a question you can answer quite yet, but do you expect to be, I assume, not super active in other teams' free agents this year? or is this more a year about keeping your own, or it's a balance?
Yeah, this is more of it, and I think what you're going to find from this point forward, we went 2 years deep into free agency back to back and got some very good football players and got some guys that really fit the culture again that we're trying to build. And we talk about that a lot, and Doug and the staff have done an excellent job of building that culture. And we want to make sure that the players that we add, keep or add, really fit and believe in what we're doing in Jacksonville.
Another question you may not be able to answer fully, but we're still waiting on a decision from the league on Calvin Ridley. So do you have a timetable for that? Any idea when that might come down, if it comes?
That's a league matter right now. We're going to let the league deal with it on the time frame that they see fit. We're looking forward, obviously, to getting our hands on Calvin and working with him and getting to know him as a person and as a player. But right now that's in the league hands, and we'll let them deal with it.
Do you sense we are at a place where the draft matters as well, obviously? Do you sense
the draft always matters.
well, I meant here in Indianapolis. Yeah. Do you have a feel for strong position groups in this draft? Is it strong at the top overall? Just what's your overall assessment of this draft?
Well, people always say that. It's really irrelevant when you think about it, right? There's going to be X number of players drafted, and everyone's going to have their board stacked the way they have it, whether it's a straw. You want to get the best 7 to 9 guys. Mm-hmm. We're currently sitting at 9 picks. You want to get the best 9 picks you can get. And so you stack the board, whether it's strong at one position, weaker at another position, really doesn't matter. We're going to draft the best football players we can possibly find that fit our system. And I don't like to talk about what positions are strong, what positions are weak, or what positions we're really targeting. Let the other teams figure that out as we go. And that's kind of how we approach it.
That's part of the deal at 24th, 25th, the Dolphins forfeiting their picks. So 24th, you just got to kind of wait and see how it falls in front of you too, right?
That's right. There's the last few years we've been unfortunately we've been picking one. Right. And you get your choice. And that's a good position to be in for a short period of time. You can't live at that position. So, now we're sitting at 24, which is a good position to be in. A lot of good football players fall into that realm, and you can get good football players throughout the draft. That's been proven over time. So our job is to stack the board the best we see fit amongst the coaches and the personnel guys, and then pick them on draft day.
But I assume the job isn't that much different for you with the number 1 pick versus 24. You're still doing the research on all the guys. Your job doesn't change here at the Combine just because you're drafting later in the draft.
No, not at all. But you realize there's a certain amount of guys, a handful of guys that you have no shot at.
Right.
So you're not going to spend a ton of time evaluating those players when you have very limited chance of getting them. There is always the possibility that you move up. Mm-hmm. And how far we move up would depend on who's available when we feel we're in striking distance. So you got to be prepared for everything, on draft day.
You haven't been scared to do that before, Trent. Move around on draft day.
I think there's some, we moved around probably more in San Francisco in my time there than we have in Jacksonville. But there's always a first in Jacksonville too. I mean, we know what we need to get this team where we want to get it. And we're going to do everything we can to get there.
Final thought for me: when you have meetings with prospects here at the Combine. So over at the train station hotel is where they still have these things, right? What do you need to find out in those 15-minute windows from a player when you have them and you've got a group of personnel folks around?
Well, how much can you really find out in 15 minutes?
That's tough, right?
It really is. It's just a chance to meet them, get a feel for them, get the coaches in front of them. There's a lot more that goes into it than a 15-minute meeting. The guys that we're interested in, we're going to be doing Zoom calls with. Our coaching staff's going to be doing a lot of Zoom calls with these guys to get to know them better. We got the 30 official visits we can bring. We can go to their campuses and meet with these guys. We're going to spend a lot of time getting to know these players because, as I said earlier, it's all about culture for us and making sure that a guy that we bring in is only going to be a value add to that culture. And that's what we're looking for, guys that can be value adds on the field, off the field, in the community. And I think we're headed that direction, and right now we don't want to disturb anything we've built.
And I assume you've gotten that same sense from agents, people talking to you about coming back. that the culture is set here, meaning it's a big change from the past. How pleased are you to hear that when you're talking to people around the league?
Well, you're always excited when people want to come to where
Right.
you're at, right? Jacksonville, Florida. It's a great place. It's a great community. We saw the last 2 games of the season just how electric it can be in that stadium and what a following it can be. It's our job to put a product out there that people will back. And, with Doug leading the way and doing an excellent job of building the culture, the coaching staff working hard, the players bought into the system and what we're trying to accomplish. Now the community getting on board. Jacksonville's, on the rise.
Right.
And we got to keep it there.
The man of the hour, Trent Baalke, general manager, making the rounds at Media Row. Appreciate the time. Good luck to you.
Thanks, guys.